Hello walkers, and welcome back to City Walks. Today we are back in Livingston, Montana. I didn't get a walkout last week. Life got in the way, I guess. But today we are gonna do a nice little sort of city walk, sort of nature walk. We're gonna start here at Mayor's Landing or Moja Park. It's an off-leash dog park built on top of an old landfill dump that they decided to put right here by the river back in the day, a long time ago. And it's also where Fleshman Creek flows right over here. We'll go over there in a second and I'll give you a little peek there before we go on our way. I'm gonna spin you around real quick. Hold on. Hi there, my name is Henry. I will be your proxy walker today, your co-discoverer and virtual travel guide. I want to take just a moment to thank our supporters, our Patreon supporters and coffee supporters and PayPal supporters. I really do appreciate it. You make these walks that much more achievable and doable, and of course you inspire me by the fact that you value these walks enough to support the channel, so thank you very much. I'm going to spin you around again. Hold on just a second. Here we go. And we're just going to take a quick peek at Fleshman Creek here. Today it is 69 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 or 21 degrees Celsius, I think. It's almost 10 a.m. on a Sunday. So it's going to be a quiet walk today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about wildfires and the summer and our little town. You can see some mallards that are kind of molting a little bit, and this creek is usually pretty clear, but the water's gotten so low that the algae has set in. I don't know if we can see it over in this direction, but there is a beaver dam down here that backs up the water often, and that's kind of neat to have that wildlife in town. We often get wildlife here in town. Livingston is about a town of 8,000, technically a city, and in a county of 16,000 that stretches, it's got to be 100 miles from top to bottom, but only like 50 across or 30 across. It stretches all the way down into Yellowstone National Park, over to Cook City, and I'm gonna just poke you over here real quick. We're right along the Yellowstone River, and I don't know if you can make it out, but there's a young eagle sitting on a snag across the river. And they raise their young along here, and the young ones are brown. They can be mistaken for a golden eagle for several years, 4 or 5 years, I think, before they start to turn bald, which is really, of course, just white feathers. Oh, there he flies. You can tell an eagle because their wings, when they soar, stay level. That's a good sign. And I don't think there's gonna pop right out, landing in another tree. Anyway, you can't really see, but there's the Highway 89 down there, and the KPRK bridge, or the 89 bridge, that goes over. We've seen that because across the river is Myers View Trail, where I've done several walks over the years, both in summer and winter. And it's a pretty little nature area, nice place. I was going to talk about the summer and the smoke. Wildfires. We've had a wonderful, wet, cool summer. And it's been just wonderfully smoke-free until the last week or so. And the rains finally went their merry way somewhere else, and things dried up, and now we're starting to get fires, and with fires comes smoke. And so you can see a haze. It's got a little bit of an orange tint to it. And it's not really that bad compared to previous years. There's been previous years where you wouldn't even be able to see the mountains. And in that case, generally it's much healthier to stay inside if you can. A lot of people, of course, can't for work, and that's a problem. Oh, this river is just sublime. We've got a little breeze today, which is nice. The sun will heat you up really quickly, but the breeze is so pleasant. Even at 80 degrees in the shade, 90 degrees in the shade, it's pretty nice. It's when you get out in the sun with 4,500 less feet of atmosphere to block it that it gets a little ouchy. As I said, this is an old landfill. They've got plans that they're putting out for comment right now, excuse me, to come in and cover this with a layer of clay and sod and put in some other features like dog agility stuff. I don't know how that's going to work unless it's irrigated, because it's pretty dry out here. But it's a great resource for the community. Sometimes there's like a library, a stick library people put out. It's a nice little community feature. But one of the downsides of it being built on a landfill is every once in a while bits of glass and metal make their way to the surface over time, and especially out over here by the river. I'm going to take a look. Off to the right here, you can see several vehicles with trailers and one with a raft. That's because, look at this wind. Right in my eyes too. Put my sunnies on. This is also a boat ramp that I'm going to show you here. It's called Mayor's Landing. One of the things they're going to do is they're going to pave this parking lot, assuming everything goes through. It's not finalized yet. They got to find the money somewhere. Love these cottonwood trees. There's going to be a parking lot for boats in that little field over there that used to be a roping ground. Belonged to the roping club. But they built this thing right by the river, or else the river has moved over time. And so we come down here and right where people are getting in the water and launching their boats, inflatable boats, you get a lot of glass and metal over here as well. So I'm kind of hoping if they do go forward with the plans, they'll mitigate that somehow. I'm not sure how you would do that. And of course the water levels go up and down, leaving more or less. You can see a bunch of trash that people have sort of taken off the beach and put onto this rock. I don't know if you can see some of the glass and the sand. I've never actually cut myself or heard of people cutting themselves. Here's a big chunk of metal embedded in there. But, not ideal. And here is the boat ramp where you can take your boat out or put it in. Another one of the features they're hoping to add, which I would love to see, is a pedestrian bridge from here over, there goes another eagle, over across the way where those cars are. There used to be a bridge there a long time ago, but it, I guess, aged out and was taken down. But it would be an awesome thing to have pedestrian access directly across there. And of course, we got our golf course here. I placed that up there with college sports in my pet peevery. This will be where they'll used to have a roping ground, kind of a little fenced off area for people to practice their rodeo roping. And I think there's a sign up here on this gate, but that has gone somewhere else, I guess, or gone defunct. Ooh, the breeze is going to be loud on the mic. I'm using the Osmo Pocket 3, and I'm always so impressed by how well it handles just everything. This is, the Park County roping club used to own this. I'll try to put a link on the video for a thing to buy if you want to look through and see the prices. It's made by DJI. With the tariffs and everything, they have really become hard to get. And here's our friend. Hi. Good morning. That's our friend Michelle. 6 months or so ago, I did a walk, and I think I showed a pile of rocks that had been put out on an island, sort of constructed, and they rebuild it every year. And I didn't realize at the time that she and her husband had made that originally as a little tribute to one of their dogs. And they kind of go back every year and add some more rocks to it, build it back up if it's come down. It's kind of a neat little thing. There's a driving range. Anyway, she might be going down there to walk her dogs, or she might be going down there to play bagpipes. She goes down and plays right by the river every once in a while. It's kind of neat. Look at those mountains. One of the things the smoke does is it creates that layered effect, which shows a little bit more depth to those mountains. I love it. About 10 or 15 years ago, in this little berm here, they put that in when they thought we might have some serious flooding. The flooding never quite rose to the level of needing this that year, and they've since sort of made little access roads through it and that sort of thing. But in 2022, we had a huge flood that I've talked about before. It was on all the national news. Shut down the north entrance of Yellowstone for, I don't know, a whole season, I think. And huge impacts locally. But it was really kind of a neat, one of the upsides in my mind was watching the community come together, everybody working together to fill sandbags, place sandbags, help people put sandbags out by their houses, regardless of all the partisan politics floating around. It just didn't matter at that point, and I loved seeing that. So that is an off-leash dog park, Mayor's Landing, Moja Park, and right about here you need to start having your dog on a leash again. This gray-green bush here is, I believe, a Russian olive. They were imported years ago to help create windbreaks, particularly out on the plains, and are sort of an invasive species at this point. I'm not sure, that probably wasn't planted, it probably just found a home. Somebody living the van life. Up here on the left, beyond this compound with barbed wire, razor wire, which I think belongs to the county, and they put equipment in there and wrecked vehicles and that sort of thing. Or maybe it belongs, it's got a lot of fencing in there, so maybe it belongs to the county fairgrounds right now. But In any case, we are going to see the fairgrounds here. They're not huge, but they're old and classic, you know, the main arena area, seating area. It's got that sort of 1940s or 50s look for construction, maybe 60s, I don't know. Utilitarian, and then they've got some new aluminum bleachers that they put in. But every 2nd through 4th of July, they have these the Livingston Roundup, and it's a giant rodeo with huge purses. Here's the public transit facility. This is obviously very new. Nice. And you've gotten to the point where you have to buy your tickets quite early because they sell out very quickly. And not particularly cheap if you try and buy them retail. But it's one of the biggest purses in the country for that weekend, and you see these massive stock trailers rolling in and out at all hours because they're all on this big circuit and they're trying to make as much money as they can over the holiday weekend, and they might be traveling hundreds of miles to find the next one. But it's a lot of fun. It's a neat cultural experience. We don't go anymore just because it's not really our thing, but we used to take the kids a lot, get elephant ears and a plastic sack full of beer cans, and let the kids run around. It was fun. You can see, looks a little ramshackle with the siding and roofing all aluminum or tin or whatever it is, and metal of some sort. But I think the bones are good. The fairgrounds have started to get a lot more activity and events there. They had a demolition derby a few weeks ago, several different rodeos over the summer, the county fair. They do all kinds of fun stuff. And during the pandemic, the local arts nonprofit, one of them, the Shane Center, invested in some equipment and held and put on a drive-in theater here. They'd hang a big screen from the back of that bleacher over there, a tall one, and then people would drive in. It's free. A lot of people would bring pickup trucks and back in, so you could sit in the back of the truck and watch the movie. And then I think they had an app or something. I can't remember exactly how it worked. You could listen to it through your car radio or your phone. It was really slick, and it was a really cool thing back then when we were all trying to be able to get together without passing along anything terrible. This is H Street. That is a kind of a main thoroughfare to get back out to Park Street and Highway 89. And it is a state route, H Street, so they actually plow that in the winter. They don't plow most of the other roads unless it gets really bad. There's just no place to put it. You know, you plow it and then nobody can park, or they can't get out of their parking. They'll clear Main Street and second sometimes with front end loaders and dump trucks, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of money to do that. And then they dump it down behind the community center in Bandshell, which hopefully we'll get to on this walk. Over here are a lot of the animal pens and buildings, and in one of these buildings, I think it's that one right there, there's a little nonprofit that has a little skating rink, indoor skating rink, and you can come down and they have free ice skates to use if you want, if you don't have your own. super fun for kids. Here's St. Mary's School, private Catholic school. And part of Fleshman Creek flows right on the other side of that. Entrance to the golf course. Used to be referred to as a country club, and I didn't really evoke country club vibes, to be honest with you, but it's a resource. I love this field here. It's a hay field, or alfalfa or something, and they irrigate it, and I think that's their home over there right along the river. I always fantasize about had I the money, buying this up and turning it into a public park or public orchard or something. I think it'd be fun. From what I understand, the family that owns it has said they will never allow a pedestrian trail along the river that would end up over at Mayor's Landing. Their land, they can do whatever they want with it, so, not whatever, but pretty much they can do that. But it sure would be a nice feature to have continue that walking trail all along the river between Mayor's and, I guess you'd go all the way up to 9th Street. And then if they built that bridge, you could keep on going. Kind of cool. It's really beautiful in here in the evenings, though, as the sun's going down, hitting this field, especially when the grass is high or alfalfa or whatever they're growing in there. It's really pretty in this. You can see the golden color of stuff that's just growing. It's getting on to be a good time of year. This is the middle school, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it right now for some reason. Some irrigation pipes stored. I'll look at the sign up here in a minute. I think it's Sacagawea. Or Sleepy Mountain? Sleeping Giant, that's what it is. So, I'll point this out. Sleeping Giant Middle School, and it might be an elementary school on this half, now that I think about it. Anyway, I'm gonna swing around here, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is what appears to be, the mind creates, our little Rorschach test, the face of someone lying on their back with their face pointing up, a nose, a chin, lips, eyebrows, kind of just to the right of the lowest part. Anyway, that's called the Sleeping Giant. And over here is where there's not a lot of great places for kids to learn how to ride their bikes. The streets are nice, but there is traffic, and especially where we lived back in the day. But I'd bring my kids down here with their little bikes, and on the weekend when there's no cars in here, and they could ride their little bikes around. East Side Elementary. So Sleeping Giant on the left, East Side Elementary on the right. That doesn't sound right, but anyway. Then over on the left is where they keep the school buses. they've raised enough money to buy some charging things. The students got together, some of the students, and raised money for some charging ports for electric school buses. They have not bought the electric school buses yet. Those things run $500,000, which is more than the diesel, but not hugely. I mean, it's all a lot of money. In any case, the districts in this county, in the state, several of them that have bought electric school buses on several occasions have been very thankful because it gets so cold, 30 below or more, and they can't keep the fuel for diesel school buses liquid. It gels up, even with the glow plugs and all that. Here's their football, soccer, track stadium. For a number of years, the electric school buses don't have a problem with that. I think they reduce charge, but they don't stop running. And so it's sort of a safety issue. When you get a bunch of kids, especially out in rural Montana, you don't want your bus stopping. And this is the high school, Park County High School, which they have other high schools in Park County, so I guess it's just Park High. About the football team, they were without a football team for several years because they couldn't get enough kids that wanted to play, I think. Other small communities, such as Ennis, have what they call 8-man football. And so you only need 8 players instead of 11. A lot of times they'll play both offense and defense. They also, the high school, years ago, raised a bunch of money, and the students did, and they put up a little wind turbine to provide alternative energy to the high school. And then they got a grant, I think, and were able to put up solar panels on the roof. However, the law in Montana, at least for Northwestern Energy, is you max out at 50 kilowatt system, and they actually had to take down the wind turbine, otherwise they would have gone over the 50 kilowatt level, which is a shame because the school could use a lot more of that, and it would save the school a lot of money on electricity bills, utility bills, if they were able to produce more of the power through the year. But of course they need to stay connected to the grid for nighttime activities and for, in the winter when there's less sun here, you only get 8 hours of daylight. So it's a shame, but that's the way the system is currently worked and incentivized, so that the utilities are incentivized actually to build more capacity of their own from gas or coal or whatever. And that's actually how they make their money, not just from selling kilowatts. So maybe someday we will either change the law or get some more money to invest in battery power and solar panels, so that they can make that totally work. I'm getting into my pontification here, but other school systems have invested this in solar, and their laws allow them to go bigger, and they save millions of dollars a year in utilities, which means taxpayers save millions of dollars a year, or at least their money goes to hopefully better uses like teachers and textbooks and computers. don't even think we have enough high school teachers right now. We can't get them. They can't afford, with the tax base, to hire new ones at the higher rates, or at least at enough so they can afford to get housing here. It's so expensive. Anyway, try not to make these things too many local issues, but kind of feel strongly about that. Well, another one of the park's plans that they're putting out for comment to the public is to redo these baseball fields, and they would reorient a few of them and create a couple of like t-ball specific fields and some other infrastructure, which I think is kind of interesting. You know, having these public facilities is pretty nice. I'm not sure how much all that would cost and if that would be worth it, but it's something they're looking at. Well, there's a little deer over by the far end of this little meadow, this little copse of trees. This is the land, excuse me, that I was referring to, or part of it, that I had heard they weren't would never open up. And I'll show you in a minute where sure would be nice to have a path. I totally understand people not wanting to come through their private property. Hi there. So the fence posts, the tips of those are painted orange. I've mentioned this before. That is a way of saying no trespassing on this land. So instead of having to put up a sign that can get torn down or blown away, you can paint fence posts or trees or wherever along your property line, and that's sufficient for, it's also a lot cheaper to declare it as off limits. To the right is an off-leash dog area as well, but you can see this old dike would be a great place to walk. Again, I'm not saying they're not within their rights, absolutely. I'm just saying, ideally, for me, it would be cool to have that access. We got some people down here. We used to bring our kids and our dogs down here on walks and let them swim on these sort of shelved, rocky structures, and then there's a little bit of little rapid out there when we float by. So. I'll point out up here on the right, as we get further, a post that Northwestern Power's put up. I think they put it up for osprey to nest, so they don't end up nesting on power lines or all these light structures out here, which could cause a fire and possibly injure the birds. So what they do is they provide an alternative place for the nest. And then the birds come back pretty much every year. So they don't have to totally rebuild the nest, which is kind of cool. You've got a lot of riprap along this old dike they built. It looks pretty solid, but apparently a few engineering type people have said not so much. And they really kind of need to rethink that at some point in the not so distant future, if they want it to be effective and not have a huge flood come through here. Hi there. I love these big old cottonwoods. Morning. Magpie on the ground. Scruffy looking. One of the nice things about these big trees is that you have to be a little careful because they will shed. Oh, there's an eagle. Hopefully it's going to fly right by us here. Oh, it's going to go on the other side. Nope. Just right over this tree. Here we go. Juvenile bald eagle. Very cool. They do shed. They reproduce partly by shedding some of these branches over time, and they're not the strongest of wood. But look at when they mow beneath it and keep this area clear. It's just a great shade tree. Something kind of romantic about these trees hanging down. Love this view. Upstream, Yellowstone River. These islands have sort of migrated around ever since I've been here. That when I first lived here, that island, that little one right there, Gravel Bar, wasn't here. But this down here, I'll show it to you a little bit, is a great place to swim in the summer. Here's the post I was talking about with a nest on top. And every year, ospreys come and they raise their young. I don't know if you can see on the poles just past, over those batting cages at the top, there are two osprey. Looks like one is maybe a juvenile. Anyway, maybe they're not. Maybe they're both juvenile. I don't know. But they have this neat call, and they teach their young to soar and hunt, and they actually fly up and soar over my house sometimes, and you can hear them calling. I don't know if they're excited to be doing something new and exciting, or they're just maybe a little scared at the new activity. Anyway, we'll walk up here. Bunch of crows in the dead top of that tree up there. Off to the right, that curved roof building is the community center. It's an age-old gymnasium. Lots of fun stuff goes on in there. Basketball games, used to be roller skating on Friday nights in the winter. Playtime for little kids, exercise time for adults to walk around in the winter. And to the right of that is a skate park that the McNair skate park that the local skate club raised money for and built. Love it. Other side of that is a lagoon that I've showed you before. And another view upriver. I'll tell you, when it gets to be 90 degrees, 85, 90, 95, 100 degrees, that water is pretty nice to get down in there. And being in September, early September, the water is pretty low right now. So you can see the wet area up there, that sort of darker part of the beach. Often the water will be up past that dark area, well past it. You can see it's barely flowing here now. That's the downside of migration. We'll eventually lose this channel, I guess, potentially. I'll show you up here where we swim. And here's the Park County Bandshell. I forget what the name of the park, but they have the farmers market here. And I think we just finished up the season. I was hoping to do a walk. Somebody requested I do a walkthrough of a farmers market and show more of them. I just didn't get to it this year. I apologize. I'll try again next year. And other activities here. They'll have a summer music concert here, a festival weekend. I came to a little non-profit, they call it a rendezvous, but it's just basically a picnic. And that was super fun. They had some music, and it's a great little facility. Here is where you can scramble down these hills in various places, and hop in the water, and when it's higher at least, you can just sort of float down from up above all the way down to where, well, before it hits the main current. And it's great. It's really low now, so it's probably, wow, it's probably up to my, not much above my ankles or calves. Well, you hear the, oh no, that's a dog. But usually it can be quite deep as the water rises, and the current pressure increases exponentially with depth, and so it can be a little, you have to be a little careful getting in and out, but if you're able-bodied, it's pretty easy. And there's other places to access the water further up as well. So, morning. And then you obviously you can get out on the other side where it's much nicer to get in and out on that beach and hang out and go back for a dip, or just lie in the current, grab a rock, let it flow over you. It's so nice. Here's the lagoon. And you can see a little painted lines there. I think that's for the night owl run they had the other day. I think it was a 5K, I'm not sure about that. Love seeing people out with their dogs. A decently trained dog is such a joy. Morning. Oh. Awesome. Love e-bikes too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Here's one of the easier places to access the creek or the river. You can see people have been smushing around. Some kids have been playing in the sand there all along. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, yes, it can cause some erosional changes, but honestly, it's so minuscule. Once the river is up over, well, up all into those willows and everything, and coming through here at 20,000 CFS, which is about 10 times what it is now, then it's sort of nickels and dimes, Here, they're talking about or proposing a big redo of Sacagawea Park as well, which is this park over here. I'm not sure that's necessary personally, but or the expense is justified. But these are horseshoe pits. People can come down and play horseshoe. People still do that. Not perhaps as much as they used to. They just repainted, did some sort of murals over on the public bathrooms over there, which is kind of fun. This is River Drive. It's really nice to walk under these giant mature trees, full foliage. They'll, of course, in the next month or so here, start turning a golden yellow, hopefully. You can see some are starting to turn up there. It always depends, right? So if we get a wet, hard freeze before they really turn, then all the leaves die and just turn brown and fall off. But I think last year was a good one. When it sort of doesn't, they have a chance to turn yellow. Oh, it's just glorious. Crisp fall air, yellow leaves snowing down like flakes. It's great. see the rose hips here. Yeah, well, the rose bushes, and these are the rose hips, I think. Those little berries. They are hitting fall, hitting their limit here at the end of the season. We'll walk down here to the 9th Street Bridge. Some red vine of some sort. Looks like a vine. Starting to get little signs of fall. It's supposed to get chilly next week and rainy. We'll see if that sticks around, if we get a little late summer surge of warmth again. So that building, that brick building on the little hill is called the Waterworks, and the park is called Waterworks Park. And the little hill in front of it is a popular sledding area for little kids. There's a nice little cement platform up top, and lots of little runs get sort of smushed into the snow every year, and they come out here and you can hear the yelling and screaming, and people bring their dogs, and it's a great old time. I've always thought that building would be an awesome place for like a little cafe or coffee shop with a patio out front, and kids could get cocos and pastries and stuff, and parents could sit up there and socialize and hang out, and you know, just a neat place. It's no longer a public building. It was sold, my understanding is it was sold to a private individual on the condition that they improve it or do something with it. And I think it's just being used for storage and maybe a workshop right now. So maybe someday we'll get a little cafe or something. Over to the right, I don't know, I forget what this park is called, but Riverside Park. But on the top end of it is an old boat ramp. When I first moved here, that boat ramp was very usable. You could float this channel all year, pretty much all year long. But over the 20 years I've lived here, the main channel has migrated more to the other side of 9th Street or Seebeck Island, which is what this island is here. And so it's really not floatable at all anymore, except at the highest water when you really kind of wouldn't want to float down it anyway. Over to our left is a little, what do you call that, a greenhouse plant place. Not great with the words today. Got some Lovelocks Bridge here. And this is Yellowstone looking out towards Sheep Mountain in the distance. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this walk. I know it was pretty chatty today, but I do love my little town. Despite the long, windy, cold winters and occasionally smoky, hot summers. I love the little community and everything we have to offer. So if you get a chance to come visit, please do. And if you see me walking around with a camera, I hope you'll say hi. And if not, I hope you enjoy your time. I'm not sure where I'm going to film next time. I do have a little road trip planned, and I will try to do some filming over in Washington State, but I'm not sure exactly where just yet. So tune back. I will try to get my weekly schedule kept. Until then, as always, keep on stepping.